Good afternoon. All right, so it was interesting in terms of, when I was asked to talk a little bit about why large companies, need to think like startups. So when I was asked to speak about it, I thought for a minute in terms of, okay, so why do we even need to think about it that way, right? So when I reflected back and thought about the fact that, what is it that the startups do so well that some of the, large companies they have grown over time from being a startup, what would they want to do, right? It's that ability of the startups to really think about the problem that they are trying to solve without having the disadvantage of the baggage, the history, the legacy, or worry about the fact that how do I, build my current business versus how do I balance my investments, going forward. I think that's a key thing that, for us to take away. And as I was looking at, this thing, and then I reflected back in terms of Netapp, and, just this year, we celebrated 25 years of Netapp. And one of the things that we've always prided on, or how we succeed in the industry, is really about innovation, is really about being able to compete with innovation. To that end, here is a picture that you will probably, you'll see where there are three founders of Netapp. The good thing is actually that two of the three founders were very active until even the last couple of years. And one of them, who is called Dave Hitz, who is on the left bottom corner that you will see there, is a very active participant even today. He is part of the company. He still participates in the day-to-day operations and works as, with the same passion, if you will. So, that's really the DNA you want to carry, irrespective of the fact that we've been there 25 years. You still want to carry that startup DNA in the company if you want to succeed in the long run, right? So before I get into, okay, what do I think are things that we need to keep in mind, I thought I would spend a minute or two in terms of introducing Netapp for those of you who may not really know, what Netapp is. It's a $5.5 billion company, close to $6 billion in annual revenues. You will actually see or hear about Netapp, if you look at various, Gartner data or other data in the industry from consultants, you will actually see that it's a Fortune 500 company that is growing the fastest from a storage device management software perspective. In fact, I have the pleasure of leading that for that segment for Netapp. You will also see that we are the number one fastest growing flash storage vendor that is out there today. And at the same time, you will also see that we have the number one most popular storage operating system in the industry. So, there are a lot of number ones there, right? At the same time, if you look at the size of the company or the revenue of the company or what have you, we compete with really, really large companies or our competitors with deep pockets for that matter, right? So how do we do that? We really do that mainly being able to focus on innovation, being able to solve those customer problems and how you focus on that. So let me talk about that a little bit today and why that need for large companies to be able to actually think like, some of the startups do, what startups do. Fundamentally, if you look at why you want to do that or why you even want to think about it, right? The world is changing, and that change is really fundamental and very rapid. And the change is coming so quickly. If you look at what is happening in the industry today, digital transformation is at its core causing huge disruption in everyday life or in everything that most companies do. It doesn't matter actually which segment. You can't really say if I'm in healthcare, I'm safe from disruption. If I'm in automotive, I'm safe from disruption. You can pick any segment of the industry for that matter, and you will see that disruption actually happening. Why is that disruption happening, and what is causing this disruption, right? You look at it in terms of the landscape, the CIOs or the companies who, or the senior execs who are running all of these organizations are actually facing significant amount of pressure in how they do business. Not only it's about the cost of doing business, but it is also about being able to satisfy their customers. What are their customer needs? The customer needs are actually changing, right? The customers want to consume similar capability or technology in different form factors, in different business models, in different consumption models, and what have you. So irrespective of what you see, what aspect of industry you look at, the fundamental things are changing. The way you do business is actually changing. To that end, you will actually see Forbes say 67% or more. That's 2/3, if you will, right? 2/3 of the global 2,000 companies, that the CEOs put their digital transformation in the center of their strategy. That is in the center of their strategy to make their money, to be a viable business, right? And if you think about in terms of why is this kind of disruption happening? Why are these CEOs putting this kind of digital transformation, in place? You can, if you reflect back over the last, 10 to 20 years, you will actually see this map of what used to be a hardware-centric, infrastructure-built organizations, right? Have significantly changed over time. There used to be, the pie for the hardware used to be the biggest. That's what most companies focused on in the infrastructure for that matter, right? It slowly started changing for everything becoming software-defined. And software-defined, of course, is in vogue even today, as you can see that green circle that shows how big a pie the software has become. But make no mistake, if you look at the biggest pie today, it's actually data. The data has become the biggest pie. This transformation in terms of how companies are looking at the value of data is what substantiates that data is the currency of the digital era. So if you have data, you can actually monetize your data. Data is at the core of the transformation that happens today, as well as what people use to make their own decisions, if you will. So if you look at this data in terms of the way it is growing and the rapid pace it is growing at, it's not just about the quantity or the amount of data or how it is growing, but it's also the fact in terms of the variances of it, right? That same data is no longer locked away in your data centers. It is now actually all over the place. With the cloud technologies becoming ubiquitous, your data is actually distributed. It's not in one place anymore. It's not in the, behind the firewalls in the data centers today, right? It is distributed in multiple silos, whether that is in data centers, whether they are in public clouds, whether they are in your solution provider environments, whatever it may be. And this data is dynamic because it is changing. It's changing in real time. And the influx of this constant change is something that needs to be handled in today's technologies. Not just that it is constantly changing or dynamic, it's also diverse. Diverse in the sense that there are different types and formats of data being structured, unstructured, with all new technologies that comes into play, right? And how do you handle that kind of data and that kind of disruption, which is really the fundamental reason why you're seeing the entire digital transformation happening, today. So fundamentally, if that kind of transformation is happening, and there are large companies which historically believed In the 1920s, people, you would say, right, if you built a great technology, you could actually be, sitting very, very well for about, 50 to 70 years at least. Right? Today, if you actually look at it, a startup can be actually sure that they, even though they are a startup, just starting, their journey, they can be sure to be disrupted within 10 or 15 years. Nobody gives more than 10 or 15 years for their technology to be disrupted, right? You will see multiple examples, right? I mean, whether you look at automotive, whether you look at ride sharing, whether you look at finance, whether you look at, mobility, whatever it may be, the industry, there are huge examples of, that kind of disruption. And we don't necessarily have to, go in and talk about it. I'm pretty sure each one of you know some of these disruptions that have happened, right? So if you look at it in terms of what does a company like Netapp do, or what do companies that have established, look at it in terms of being able to survive or continue to succeed in the industry, right? That, I believe, one of the core things is about being the disruptor of oneself, in the sense that if you don't think about disrupting yourself, somebody else is going to do it. That's for sure. So the idea is about, even though you may end up having to cannibalize something of your own, you still have to actually think about disrupting yourself, not necessarily being afraid of the technology that is changing in the world, but it's really about running towards that. Right? To that end, what I might want to leave you guys with, in short, as far as what do the larger companies do in terms of three things to remember, if you will, in my view, that we want to do, is about, one, staying relevant. Never forget, what problem are you trying to solve? It's really about solving that customer problem. If you are focused about solving the customer problem, if you are actually staying relevant to what you want to do and the problem that you're solving, and staying relevant also means learning, right? It's about the skill sets. It's about the ability to change and retrain yourself to be able to solve that problem in the industry, right? And whatever new problem that you may actually go and solve. Secondly, it's about being able to consistently and constantly innovate, not, being able, it's about being able to challenge the status quo. If you sit on the laurels of history or the laurels of legacy, having actually innovated something and brought a technology into the market, you can be sure that, you will become irrelevant if you don't continue to innovate in the space that you believe in, or the problems that you're really trying to solve. And last but not least, as I said earlier, if you don't disrupt yourself, you can certainly be sure that you can be disrupted, that you will be disrupted, right? So always look at it in terms of, what can I do to change my own business to make it better, or to address that next new big problem. So that's what I wanted to leave with you today. At the same time, I would say, in terms of what we look at as far as, what can you do to change the world today? That's what we ask ourselves every day. We look at being able to do that with data and to address that digital transformation. So you can ask yourselves in terms of, how are you going to change the world? And I wanted to leave you with this video that can potentially, address some of the, thought processes, opportunities, and what you can actually do from a digital transformation perspective. If we can roll the video, please.
Calling all barrier breakers, status quo smashers, world changers. You're not just driven, you're data-driven. You know that traditional business is history, and that data-centric organizations decide the future. You have the vision and guts to make digital transformation happen. You understand that data is the lifeblood of your business, and that it becomes more powerful when you tear down walls and unify data across silos and clouds. You aim to master the hybrid cloud world, push customer touchpoints to the farthest reaches, inspire global teams to innovate, shatter the obstacles of data center performance, and discover opportunity wherever it exists. There's one company who can help you make it all possible. Netapp has a whole new approach to data, so you can align your resources, unleash your data's full potential, and realize your vision. Data visionaries wanted.
Thank you very much. Have a wonderful rest of the conference.